Hello, Jaime from Inky and Scrappy, sharing with you today my new card series featuring Lawn Fawn's Pool Party stamp set with an easel card. Welcome back to all of my subscribers, and if you are new here or have yet to subscribe to the channel, please consider subscribing as it helps the channel grow. I used some color inspiration for my coloring on this one. I had pulled out that Pool Party 6x6 paper pack from Echo Park, and we had actually gone on vacation for a weekend away at my brother's cabin, and so I needed to grab, we knew it was going to rain, so I needed to grab something to do. So I had packed up, I had done a color chart for 3 different color pads and threw it all in the bag. And so as I was coloring the one morning while it was raining, I was like, ooh, I wanted to do something super simple. I didn't know what patterns were in my actual paper packs, and I didn't actually use any pattern papers for this card. But at least it gave me a color inspiration to go from, and so that's where I went. I went with this Juniper green shade and then a pink, and I am totally not a pink girl when it comes to anything except for when I want it to be mine, and I don't want all the boys in the house to have it since I'm the only girl. It doesn't work. In my head it should work, but in theory it didn't. It never pans out for me. So I'm bringing in 2 colors from close to my heart. I don't even think they're in production anymore. The one is a Juniper green and the pink was Pixie, but they matched my ink colors on this one very well. And it is the lighter green in that pool pad or Pool Party pad, and then that lighter pink shade in there. And they just flowed very well together. And I do love a very simple colored card sometimes. It doesn't happen. I like to do the rainbow effect, but you know, once in a while I go for it. So I did the MFT Pool Party stamp for my pool water there. That is the MFT Pool die cut off to the side. And then for my tile around the pool, I used Tim Holtz linen stencil. And then to put my embossing powder on there, I don't like how the embossing powder goes over a stencil, either with direct from the ink pad or the embossing dauber there. I just never feel like it gets in the corners very good. So I pulled out this older brush that I have. It's an MFT, no, it's a close to my heart one. And so it's a real brush. It's a lot like the Tim Holtz ones. I just knew I wasn't going to use it for anything else. So it is going to be my designated embossing ink brush for doing stenciling for this kind of technique. And I love how it got into those little corners and grooves in my stencil. I will definitely be doing that technique a lot more now that I have a dedicated brush for that. And then for my background, I needed something that was going to be that two-tone or have that same color scheme. And so I just ended up pulling out Lawn Fawn's, I think it's the Tropical Leaves here, stencil set, just for something that was going to be super simple in the background that was going to go with my color scheme. So I die cut and cut everything out that I needed. I folded my sheet of paper here in half. And actually what had happened, I laid out my card front kind of sort of before I left for the farm. And I realized that I didn't like how the umbrella looked on a flat card. Does that make sense? Because the pool looks like you're looking down from the top at it. And I was like, well, I should just have a big circle with, you know, the top of the umbrella. I shouldn't have the umbrella look. And I was like, well, how am I going to get around that? So this is what I came up with. It's what happens when I have time to marinate a card during the process. It usually morphs into something a little more complicated, but I usually love the end result, so it's all good. So I decided to do an easel card because then my umbrella would actually be standing up and it would be all good, right? And I knew I was going to cut off my pool because I didn't want the whole pool on the front of my card. And I was like, I can put the other part of the pool on the inside of the card, and that can be my holder upper part of my easel card. I don't do easel cards very often. My grandma sends me beautiful folded easel cards all the time, and I absolutely love them. Why I don't do them, I have no clue. But so I was inspired to do an easel card, and I was like, you know, we're going to make this one work. So I was trying to decide if I wanted to make that piece of paper here the easel part or not the easel part. Did I want it to be up in the back and not? So it's kind of a modified easel card, because this, I actually end up cutting this down and putting it on that top flap, but you don't see it when the card is popped up on the easel, because I wanted that umbrella to stand up. I know, I'm weird. What can I say? I like to make life difficult. So I was kind of playing around with sandwiching that in between the two, like in between my front panel, and I decided, nope, I'm just going to put it on the top flap, and when the card's open, you're not actually going to see it, which I am totally fine with. It's, you know, it's me. So I'll adhere that down to the top portion of the easel card. So when it's closed, you're going to see it. When it's opened, it's not going to be visible from the front side. And then, because of course I trim my own card bases, I'm not always 100% on, and so I have to trim off my excess overhang or underhang, I guess you could say, in some instances. My chair's extra noisy today. I'm sorry, I got fidgety. I haven't even had my caffeine quota for the day. And then for that bottom piece, I did decide to just pop it up so it's a little bit taller, because I wanted it to have a little bit more real estate on the front of the card, or shall I say, when the card is actually popped up, I needed that real estate for all of my things to fit in. And you'll see I end up changing my layout quite drastically, because I decided I didn't want it that busy on the front of the card, if that makes sense. Because I ended up wanting my card design to flow to the inside and have that kind of wow factor when you actually opened up the card and popped it up. So you get like a whole nother scene on the inside, in addition to the scene that was on the front of the actual card. So I trimmed off the extra overhang that I didn't need for the front, and then I took that, because it had enough of that pattern on it, and glued that to the backside. So when it is popped up, it kind of has a finished look to the backside. Of course, my umbrella was cut with a Brother Scan & Cut instead of the die, and so I didn't make a second one. And if I had, I would have definitely backed that as well, so it has that clean finished back to it. But my die was not going to match my Brother Scan & Cut on that piece. So if I'd have thought about it beforehand, I probably would have die cut that one out instead of doing it on Brother Scan & Cut. But I had like 4 or 5 sheets of images to cut out, and it's just faster to do the Brother Scan & Cut than to individually die cut them all. And so I'm just going to add my little critters to my little pieces here. I could go for a pool day today. It's like 80 here today, but it was cool this morning. It's been cooler lately. I'm not even going to cry about it. It's been hot. It's been Texas heat hot in Minnesota. That's not how we roll here. So I just figured out how much of the pool I need on the front of my card for my little floating llama to fit, because I want him to be totally on the front. I don't want any of him to be cut off. And then I'm just going to hand trim that off here, and then add it with some foam tape onto the inside of the card So the idea is that once I put this on the inside and we pop that easel open, it will finish the inside or the rest of the pool. So you have the pool in its entirety when the card is open. And this is probably why I don't do a whole lot of easel cards, because in my head they, never look right when they're popped up and open. But this one did, so it was all good. So I'm going to add my little floaty creature there, and then my umbrella. And just for stability purposes, I probably would have liked to back that so it had a little bit more weight to it, but it's just a card, it'll be fine, right? And then popping up my other little added things, because obviously if you're floating in a pool, you need to have your beverage close by. So that's why it's by the edge of the pool, so I can swim on over to it and have a little drinky drink and then continue my float. And then I decided I needed some more pieces here in a little bit because, my card looked it had some open spots. God forbid we have white space. I like no white space. I'm kidding. I'm okay with a little bit of white space, but not a lot. So I stamped out a few more things. Nothing that I had already colored matched my color scheme on this one, and so I wanted to do a little bit more color, coloring with my color scheme here. So this is just a number 180 bullet nib marker from Uhuhu for my green. It's just a matter of laying down your colors in layers, and you get that look of multiple markers. So if you only have one or two of something, try doing the layers of colors. If you let it dry in between, you'll also get a stronger layered look. It doesn't blend quite as quickly. Just some tips for, those that might have some issues. And it was basically because I didn't have another shade that really went with it in either of my, or any of my marker brands, because I have Uhuhu's Copics. I have a few of the, is it Shan Twin Touch markers or whatever, and some of the, whatever Hobby Lobby's brand is, because I needed a green that they had one time when I was there, so I have a couple of theirs. But yeah, I just didn't have anything else that matched that color, and so it works. I stamped and clear embossed my main sentiment for the front of the card here, just using some VersaFine Onyx Black ink, and then doing just the VersaFine, no heat embossing on the inside part of my card. And then I didn't want white, I just thought it was too white, and so I decided to do my marker over the top of this one. And that's why I had done the heat embossing on it, because I knew I was going to color it and I didn't want it to smear. And so, of course, we needed to add a little bit of bling bling because it wasn't quite finished without a little bit of bling. And so I just bippity boppity booped a couple of glue dots of glue, and then added my gems accordingly. Usually I do them in threes, and if I don't like them after I have them down, I just add more gems. It's how I roll. But I did want some gems on the front, because once it's open, you're not going to see the gems that are sitting on the back part. And so that's why I added some gems to the front. And there is the finished easel card, concluding my first card for my pool party stamp series. We'll see how many I have. I have at least 2 more done, and I have a few more ideas floating around. So thank you so much for joining me, and have a great day. Keep getting inky.